Now live on all the channels. I want to thank you for being here with me today. Sorry for being a little bit late. The program I use, XSplit, changed its setup. Now there is a stream button. It turns out the stream button sends me only to Twitch. But I didn't want to stream only to Twitch. I wanted to stream to all the channels. So I had to go to a different setting. Today's an Ask Me Anything. Like I was saying earlier. Ask me whatever you want. I'm tired today. I've been staying up late, working hard for all of you, waking up early to take care of the kids. Is it called burning the midnight oil? Have I burnt the midnight oil? All right, good. Do we have tips for cash games? Yes, I have an entire cash game masterclass, 29 lessons long with all sorts of quizzes, lots of interactivity to ensure you get good at poker. Check it out, pokercoaching.com/premium. Best practices to become more aggressive. Instead of taking the passive line, take the aggressive line. Seriously, like you just have to be willing to make the play that you know is best, and instead of making the scared play or the passive play. You used to hear that good bankroll strategy was that you should leave the game when you lose half of your bankroll. What? Is there any truth to this, or should you stay until you lose X buy-ins? Well, I mean, I guess if your bankroll is almost no money, then I guess you could lose half of it. But if you're playing properly bankroll with 100 buy-ins, you're not going to sit down and lose 50 buy-ins. That would be ridiculous. Pretty hard to lose, what is that, 50,000 big blinds? It's hard to lose 50,000 big blinds in a session. I have a full article on bankroll management called The Bankroll Bible, jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll. In reality, though, you should quit when the game is no longer good. The idea that I'm going to quit because I'm losing makes literally no sense. Unless, of course, you think losing is correlated with being in a game that you can no longer beat, in which case then perhaps you should leave the game when you're down some amount of money. Let's see. It's tough because your opponents won't fold. If your opponents won't fold, poker's really easy. Just play better cards than them. Stop trying to bluff. Don't try to bluff people who won't fold. Come on, that's common sense, right? I have 2 books that outline this. Secrets or Strategies. What's this book called? Let me make sure I get it right. This is what you need. Strategies for Beating Small Stakes Poker Cash Games. It's a little book, but it goes through common things people do wrong. And one of them is they try to bluff people who won't fold. So stop trying to bluff people who won't fold. Just play better hands than them. If you're properly bankrolled, is there any reason to attempt to sell action? Not really, Glenn. I mean, there's like some reason. Like if you can sell action at a high markup, like roughly your perceived win rate, then you're essentially just mitigating variance. If you are one of the, I'm not going to call them scammy people, but if you're one of the opportunistic people, how about that, who can sell action at a higher markup than your edge, then you'd rather sell the action, right? Like let's say you're going to play a tournament and you expect to have 20% ROI, but you can sell it 1.5, meaning you expect to have 50% ROI, then you're just going to print an extra 30% ROI by selling that action. That said, I don't think that's what you should do to people who want to buy your action, right? It's not treating them right. Just because someone will buy your action does not mean that you should sell the action at whatever price they're willing to pay. What do you think about ACR News? Oh, I don't follow ACR News. I'm not sure why you would think that I would possibly follow ACR News. Let's see. Does an 8 big blind per 100 win rate, or 8 big blind per 100 rake, a $2 no limit make it worthwhile to... Ben, I don't know what question you're asking. 8 big blinds per 100 is not per 100 hands. That's not how rake works. They take X percentage per pot that is played. Whatever that means. I just wanted to say thanks for all my content. Well, you're very welcome, Jack Rag. I'm glad you enjoy it. Thanks for being here. Thanks everyone for being here. Hope you're having a great day. Do you avoid big all-ins from other players when you're the chip leader? No, I'm not so worried about that. I mean, like, if you think... So, look, I think a lot of people don't realize that the way you should play poker is not just raising and re-raising when you think you have the best hand and then folding when it becomes clear you don't. In reality, like if you have a big stack and you're playing against another big stack in a tournament, late in a tournament, you should not be trying to battle very, very hard. Okay? You want to try to play small pots against the other big stacks so that if things happen to go horribly wrong, you're not out of the tournament or down to no chips. So maybe you don't 3-bet your pocket jacks and your ace queen, right? Maybe you don't 3-bet quite as many bluffs. Maybe you play a little bit more cautiously against the big stacks. And if you happen to find yourself in a scenario where like, oh, this is break even, what should I do? You probably screwed up. You'll find that playing very polarized ranges in scenarios where you really don't want to go broke is usually ideal. Trying to build a bankroll, playing 5-handed live. Majority of players button straddle, and are you losing value not button straddling? Probably not, but maybe. What percentage of hands was I bluffing back in the day? I actually didn't do a ton of bluffing in the sit and goes because that was not good strategy in sit and goes back in the day. And 5-10 no limit though. I don't know, man. I don't even think like that. I'm just playing good fundamentally sound poker, you know. Just play good fundamentally sound poker. Nick says you enjoyed the show on Poker Go yesterday. Yeah, I did. Run It Back with Remco, where we reviewed 2 final tables. One of them featuring one of my favorite poker players. You know who it is? You all probably don't know who it is. It's a guy from Portugal, I believe. João Vieira. I love playing with him. I love talking with him. Normally, you don't want to play with people who are also better than you at poker. But, like, if I had a home game, I would happily invite him to play because he creates action, he's fun, he's great at poker, and I like talking to him. Oh, tonight for Poker Coaching Premium members, goodness gracious, do we have an amazing webinar lined up for you. We have Giraffe Ganger, #1 player in the world a year or two ago in tournaments, and Michael Acevedo reviewing Giraffe Ganger's recent $10,000 buy-in win on GG for about $400,000. That's going to be a lot of fun. So I have perhaps the best exploitative player in Giraffe Ganger and the best GTO player in Michael Acevedo going through and analyzing his win, which is a lot of fun. I'm excited that we can bring that to you. That's going to be great. ACR News was basically we have no clue how to battle real-time assistance, so how about we add in wildcards? I mean, that sounds about right. That's par for the course, right? I did see they made a joke. I think it was a joke. They have a forum post where they want you to give them honest feedback, but, like, you know, we see how that goes, right? I want to make it clear, adding wildcards to a game is not going to stop bots or real-time assistance because you can just reprogram that stuff very quickly. And I actually don't hate the idea of consistently changing the game in some way, but it's really hard to do, and you're going to start having to go to, like, weird places. Like, if you've seen, there was a game, Poker X, back in the day, made by the Global Poker League that I streamed a little bit, actually, where they have various powers and cards and all this stuff. It's kind of like a mix of Magic the Gathering and poker, or Hearthstone and poker. And I just don't think that kind of thing's going to be that popular. PokerStars had something like this, too, that I think it was called Power Up Poker. It also wasn't that popular. I played it a little bit, too. Usually those games are, like, kind of easy to solve. Usually when you make all sorts of powerful things, one of these powerful things is just going to be way better than the others. And that means your game is broken and your game is easy. Like in Poker X, it was basically a combination where you could have a power that turned your lowest card in your hand to match your highest card in your hand. So if you have, like, an ace and you have a 3, you can play that, go into the river to make yourself have pocket aces. You can also have a card that raises or lowers one of the cards on the board. So I think actually, like, kings was the nuts, because if you had kings and the board contained an ace or a queen, and you had the raise or bottom to top card on the river, when you get there, you can basically make yourself have top set every time. So it's kind of stupid if you can make yourself have top set on the river every time. And worst case, you have an overpair every time. You know what I mean? If your opponent, like, lowers it back or something. So it was just, like, kind of dumb, right? Because some of the cards were broken. And that it takes a lot of time and effort to balance a game. But the thing is like, even if you do get it balanced and it becomes roughly 50-50 or whatnot, then people could still just spend time to actually solve the thing, right? I mean, I figured out that Poker X in, like, 5 minutes. And I'm not even that great at that kind of thing. So anyway, adding wildcards and whatnot is not going to help you. And I also think that the general public is probably going to reject the idea of drastically changing the game. Why is it better to 3-bet linear versus polar, especially to start? It's not. It's not better to 3-bet linear. I don't know who told you that. Let's see. We have full GTO strategies at pokercoaching.com, by the way. We have an app that has all these things available right there on your phone. Also, you'll see that typically the times you want to be linear is mainly when you're in the small blind. So make sure you're doing that. But from the other positions, a polarized strategy is almost always better. How large of a sample do you need to do what? You feel over bankrolled with 500 buy-ins. I mean, if you have 500 buy-ins, you're probably fine. And I would tell you to try to move up. If you're winning in your current game, then go for it. Apparently on ACR, people are... I mean, I'm just reading what Nate's saying here. I haven't read any of this stuff personally. Real-time assistance, people are crushing the games really hard, and they can't do anything about it. Yeah, okay. So you got to change the game. I mean, to be fair, if your game is just essentially broken because you lack security practices required to get rid of real-time solvers, which apparently actually is not all that hard, by the way. I know PokerStars has been doing this for a long time. If you don't have good security, I mean, what are you going to do, right? You're just ripe for exploitation. Just wanted to say thank you for the content. You're running at 12 over 100. Nice. Over 50K hands. Nice. That's solid. Hi, Jay Nandez. You love my podcast. Thank you. I'm not Jay Nandez, but I do have a podcast. Can you purchase the Cash Game Masterclass alone? You can, but I would definitely recommend getting Poker Coaching Premium instead. I think if you go to pokercoaching.com/store, you can see all of the individual products we offer, but really we've essentially moved away from that to the point that you should definitely just sign up for Poker Coaching Premium. That's definitely the most cost-effective thing by a mile. Because I want to give you everything I have. I don't want to give you just one little thing. I want to give you everything. To be fair, Cash Game Masterclass is not little. It's quite big. What's my thoughts on mitigating variance? Depends on what scenario you're talking about. Like in cash games, I would tell you to completely ignore it. In tournaments, maybe. Especially late in tournaments. So hard to decide between all the various training sites that have amazing feedback. Yeah, my site, BBZ, Raise Your Edge, all good sites. I will tell you my thought process on this. BBZ is quite expensive. I think it's $500 a month, which, probably still a steal if you're playing lots and lots of poker at a very high level. Raise Your Edge is like a one-time purchase. I think they want $1,500 for one course. It's like 8 hours long. It's a fine, good course. A little bit hard to follow. It's not organized especially well, at least in my opinion. That said, it's hard to organize a giant course. Well, I know this because I'm in the midst of making my tournament masterclass. It's gigantic, about 1,500 slides long. It's hard to organize. Hard to organize a gigantic course. But I mean, like BBZ, Ben CB, both very, very good players, very world-class, and I like both of their work. That said, sign up to Poker Coaching Premium, and if you don't like it within 30 days, ask me for a refund. So mine's going to cost you, at the most, if you don't get any sort of deal or buy a yearly package, $100 a month for all access to everything I have, thousands of hours. We have multiple world-class coaches, many of them better players than me. And if you do not like it within 30 days, just tell me you want a refund and I'll give you a refund. Because if I don't help you get better at poker, I don't want or deserve your money. I don't know these other two sites' refund policies, but I know they're both way more expensive. And I know BBZ is consistently adding new content kind of like I do, but I don't think Raise Your Edge is doing that so much. And the Raise Your Edge course is like 3 or 4 years old at this point, which is, fine, but like I said, it's just a little bit older. All right, let's see. I also think interactivity is very important. I know BBZ also does a lot of interactivity like I try to do, like we do live webinars and whatnot. For Poker Coaching Premium members on Monday, we're having a Q&A where 8 people are going to get on the phone with me, one at a time. And we're going to go through their poker hands and go through their poker questions. It's like private coaching for 15 minutes with the students. We do things where we give away buy-ins to the members. We have a vibrant Discord, a vibrant forum, lots of classes, lots of quizzes, etc., etc. Is the material up to date? We upload so much new material every month, it's ridiculous. Today, we're reviewing a recent win. Well, we're not up. Who is doing this? My brain. There's so many things happening right now. Michael Acevedo, he wrote Modern Poker Theory, the book on GTO poker, came out last year. He is reviewing with DraftGanger, literally one of the best poker tournament players in the world, his recent $10,000 buy-in win for $400,000. They're reviewing it for Poker Coaching Premium members tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And that's just like something that's happening. So is that up to date? Well, it happened very recently. We have literally 2 of the absolute best poker players in the world who I hand-selected to teach me how to play poker, and I'm sharing it with all of you. I mean, it's like as up to date as it can possibly be. We upload new content on a very regular basis. Funny enough, we actually have, we kind of screwed up. We have, I believe, 4 webinars on Thursday. Oh my gosh, is that tomorrow? I think that's tomorrow, yeah. Yeah, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow we have literally 4 webinars. That maybe was a mistake. We'll see how that goes. I think we may see viewership decline, or maybe people just like took the day off and wanted to study all day. So anyway, you want lots of content up to date. You want to go deep on poker. I think poker coaching is the way to go. So check it out. How much more often should you use ace-x blocker to nut flush to re-raise bluff the turn or the river? That's a weird question. Like, should you be doing this sometimes? Sure. What are the best steps to take in studying the game? Learn to play fundamentally sound poker. If you want to get good quickly, go to pokercoaching.com, sign up for the premium membership, go through the challenges. We have a 30-day tournament challenge, and I think it's a 30-day cash game challenge. So go through those, and that's going to get you up to speed pretty quickly. If you're a cash game player, just go through the cash game masterclass. So Ryan says he thinks BBZ and Raise Your Edge are very overpriced. The thing is, what does overpriced mean? Compared to other training sites like mine? I mean, yeah, they probably are overpriced compared to that. That said, if you play poker at a high level, you have to realize even $1,500 for 8 hours of content from a very good player, I mean, what is that? It's $200 an hour you're paying the guy. That's actually not insane for content from a good poker player. BBZ's thing, I know they put out a lot of content each month. If it costs you $500 a month, let's say they put out, I don't know how much they put out. Let's say they put out 50 hours of content a month, which they probably don't. But if they do, it's only, $10 an hour. It's not all that expensive, really, if you think about it like that. PokerCoaching.com, right? You sign up for the most expensive membership I have. It costs you $3 a day. $3 a day. If you play poker pretty much at all, you should pretty much try to figure out a way to spend $3 per day getting significantly better at poker. And the thing I have at Poker Coaching that I think makes it very unique compared to most other sites is we have a large pile of classes on individual topics, hundreds of them. And essentially you can type in anything pertaining to poker. 3-betting, bankroll, 4-betting, turn check raises, whatever. And you're probably going to find something on that topic. And you'll be able to really answer whatever questions you possibly have. What do I think of this Sky's training site? I don't know Sky's training site. Let's see. How much time does it take after the start of a tournament for you to find things that you should be paying attention to, like what you're trying to exploit? Pretty much immediately. I mean, you can definitely make general reads right off the bat. So you can do that stuff kind of quickly. Why is there a gap between 20 and 40 big blinds? Because we messed up the 30 big blind chart. It's coming soon, though. All right. Thanks to all of you for all the questions, by the way. I appreciate it. Thanks for being here. You found the game you can beat, but it's not popular. What can you suggest? Well, you did one of the 2 things you have to do to win a poker. Find a game you can beat, and then play it a lot. You're running into the problem where you can't play it a lot. I remember meeting someone a long time ago. He was bragging to me about how he's the best 6-handed pot limit Omaha sit-and-go player in the world. Like, okay, cool. And I went home and looked him up, and he was winning something like $4,000 a year because the biggest game that ran each day was $133 sit-and-go. So this guy spent substantial time getting good at pot limit Omaha 6-handed sit-and-goes, yet he can't really play the game. So what should he do? He should find a different game. I mean, this is the time, assuming you care about making money, right? If you're playing for fun, then, do whatever you want. But if you're trying to make the most money possible, you need to make sure you're playing a game that is big. And to be fair, this is the case with pretty much anything in life to some extent. Like, say you're in business. You need to make sure either you're in a big market or you can charge the people that you are teaching a ton of money. One of the 2 things. I mean, to be fair, the poker training space is not a great space because the market's not all that big. I'm never going to get filthy rich teaching all of you to play poker. Sure, I can make a little bit of money, but I'm not going to get filthy rich, right? And that's fine. I don't really mind. I'm not necessarily doing this to make as much money as possible. But whatever you're doing, you want to make sure that if you care about making money, that you find a way to scale it in some way to help a lot of people is what it amounts to. If you help a lot of people, they'll reward you. If you help only a few people, you better make sure they're willing to pay you a ton of money for it if you want to get paid from it. Like, for example, say this guy played six-handed pot limit Omaha sit and goes, but they didn't run very often. But when they ran, they were like $10,000 buy-in games. Then sure, maybe it makes sense, right? I mean, this is like some people who get really good at random mixed games. They don't run very often, but when they run very often, they ran at high stakes, so it's okay. Let's see. You've been studying poker. 4 of your friends just started. You crushed them. Now they don't want to play. What should you do? Should you let them win sometimes? Well, if you want to play... so basically, should you hustle them is the question. This is what people do in games who are substantially better than their opponents if they want to get action. And if they're not going to play with you otherwise, I guess the answer is yes. What are you going to do? Assuming you want to play with those people. World College Poker in the house. Make sure you all check out World College Poker. If you're in college and want to play poker for free, check it out. Let's see. Oliver, if you have any questions about where to find content, just send us an email, support@pokercoaching.com. I know we have a lot of content on the site. If player A and player B both played perfect GTO, who would be, say, after 500 hands? Who would be what? You're saying who would be up? It should just be variance. Right? Would you call yourself a math player? I certainly would used to call myself a math player because I used to play very mathematically based games. Now I play things like multi-table poker tournaments and live poker tournaments and live cash games that you get to use more exploitative strategies more often, right? Because you're playing against players who are more exploitable or you have better information. So, I don't know, a mix. I think you'll find pretty much all the best poker players in the world, not all, but the majority, started off being good, strong online players, good, strong math players, right? And then, as they transition to live poker, they realize you can make more money if you learn to exploit your opponents. That said, when you exploit your opponents, it's also just math. I think a lot of people don't realize this. If you run any scenario through a solver, a GTO solver, it's going to give you the right strategy. The difficult thing, though, is to input the right strategy for your opponent, right? Like, let's say on the river, your opponent folds to every river bet. A lot of people think that if you ran this through a solver, it would tell you to bluff sometimes and value bet sometimes and play the GTO strategy. But that's not accurate. It would tell you to, well, if your opponent folds every time, it would tell you to bluff everything, right? Because your opponent's going to fold too often. So the solvers can tell you what to do based on the input you give them for your opponent's strategy. And that's what reads do. They let you change the perceived strategy of your opponent. And is that really like feel? I mean, that's just like paying attention and exploiting your opponent accordingly. Let's see. What do you think about Ryan LaPlante as a poker player? Very good poker player. Certainly, probably a little bit too creative for my taste in terms of aggressive, wild plays. He'll get after it. He's not afraid to run giant bluffs. I think giant bluffs are fine, but very often not in tournaments where if you lose, you go broke. Is it possible to make a living off 1-3? What does a living mean? And really, this is just a math problem. Let's say you make 10 big blinds per hour. It's $30 per hour playing 1-3. Can you make a living off $30 per hour? Certainly you can. Especially if you put in good hours. Say you work 10 hours a day every day, 70 hours a week. It's 280 hours a month. 280 times 3 is, call it $8,500. So is $8,500 enough money to live off of? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Do you ever think you'll move out of New York City? Well, the specific city, like Manhattan, probably at some point. The area, the vicinity, like I may move to Connecticut or something, but that's basically New York City. It's tough because like I, Jonathan Little, don't care where I live at all. But my wife cares where she lives very much. She wants to be by her parents. It's going to sound morbid, I suppose. Once her parents are gone, then maybe she'd be willing to move somewhere else. So I guess, I mean, you got to be a favorite to move from wherever you live, right? To some extent. If like you can live anywhere and your spouse is like a high-level employee who may get a good job offer for someone else from somewhere else, you know, randomly San Francisco or LA or whatever. Yeah, I mean, we're probably a favorite to move at some point, but I don't think we're going to be moving anytime soon. All right. All right. Do you agree with Lemon? Poker is the world's best hobby, but the world's worst job. No, it's definitely not the world's worst job. Come on. 31 likes. You all don't like question and answers, huh? I'll stop doing question and answers if you all don't like them. If you like this, click the like button. I'd appreciate it. Your ROI is minus 37% on GG. You played 140 tournaments. You can't figure out your leaks. Well, first off, 140 tournaments is nothing. Also, minus 37% is just well within the realm of variance, right? Basically just means you haven't won any tournaments. So I would tell you to put in substantially more volume. That said, if you can't figure out your leaks, you're probably not studying enough. Fortunately for you, we have loads of content at pokercoaching.com. Go through and watch the play and explain videos. We had Faraz Jaka and Matt Affleck, two world-class online tournament players who grind hard online. They've been doing live streams for the Poker Coaching Premium members. You can sit there and every single time they're about to make a play, pause the video and ask yourself, what would I do in this spot? And then if they do something substantially different, they're going to make the play and they're going to tell you why they made the play. Go through our quizzes. We have thousands of quizzes where you get to test yourself in real time. If you can't figure out your leaks in today's poker environment, it's like you're just not trying hard or you're just studying the very, very incorrect thing. I mean, right here, Paulie says, quizzes on Poker Coaching Premium are a one-of-a-kind learning tool. Well, they are one-of-a-kind because they take forever to make, and they take technology to make, but I mean, that's what we offer at the site, right? We basically make it easy to find your leaks. But to be fair, 140 tournaments is not a ton. If you're playing great, you're very confident you're playing great, then keep playing. I've had plenty of 140 tournament stretches where I lost money. That just happens. All right. William Hill Poker is a site, you're saying. They have small field tournaments. Seems like a good soft field. Sure. Thanks for the coffee. You're welcome. Is ICM only a tournament concept? Yes. You don't... Well, so interesting question. I would say yes 99.9% of the time. There is some world where, like, if you know the bad player in your game loses their chips, they won't rebuy. Maybe there's like this weird reverse ICM scenario where you like really want to try to bust the player because if they busted somebody else, they're just going to quit and then the game's not going to be any good. So, I mean, I guess in some world that happens. Maybe there's ICM or like semi-weird ICM issues where you know if you go broke, you can't play the game again because you're playing out of your bankroll. That said, like if that's the case, you probably screwed up entering the game to begin with. So I don't know if you would actually call that ICM. That's more of like payout implications, but like the idea of using an ICM calculator, I think pretty much only applies to tournaments. Do you think the level of play will have increased when live poker reopens? No. I think a lot of people just aren't playing a ton of poker. And if most people just aren't playing a ton of poker, then the game's going to be soft. What's the best way to deal with low confidence with both studying and playing? Well, fortunately, if you study a lot and you're good, and you have proof that you're good, then you should have confidence in your playing ability. And, you know, your studying ability, I don't think you necessarily need to be overly confident with that. But like I said, right? Poker coaching quizzes, you get graded on every single decision you make. And you can go back and see where you're messing up or where you're playing great, right? For all we know, maybe you play perfectly pre-flop. So you don't need to worry about that so much. Maybe you're really bad on the river. You need to make sure you're studying on the river, right? So by getting graded in these scenarios, you will get a pretty clear indicator of if you are playing well or poorly. If you go through your stats on Hold'em Manager and you see that you're profiting in all the scenarios and everything looks good, you should be confident, right? Because you have good results. Turns out results, whether it be in the form of getting good grades from a site you trust to give you good information, or just actual results and big blind per EV big blind per 100 graphs, that kind of thing should give you confidence. To be fair, I kind of lack confidence naturally, but what I started doing is playing online a decent amount. And I see my EV big blind per 100 is the same as all the elite tournament players, which is good. It means that we are definitively winning at least a reasonably high rate over a decently big sample. So get in there and do it, right? Prove to yourself that you're a good, strong winning player, and then you won't have to worry about confidence so much. How do you utilize GTO in live games? You exploit your opponents based on whatever they're doing wrong, right? So if you know, like, I mean, we already gave examples of this, right? Say your opponent always calls on the river, stop bluffing. Someone asked this earlier. How do you beat players who play any two cards? Play better cards than them and don't bluff them if they're going to call you. So many good players have basic pre-flop leaks, even at the high stakes. Sure, lots of people have lots of leaks. That said, I will say, pre-flop leaks may not be that costly if you're playing like deep stacked high stakes games. Because if you're playing deep stacked, a lot of your edge may come from being way better at your opponent's post-flop than they are, or getting to different parts of the decision tree than they are used to going to. Good poker player Dominic Niche started doing a ton of limping from all positions in tournaments a year or two ago. And I got to presume he studied it way more than everybody else did. And he crushed for a little bit there. And it's because nobody really knew what to do, right? We actually have a chapter in my newest book, see back there, it's Selling at Tough No Limit Hold'em Games by Draft Ganger, who's going through his $10,000 buy and win later today, 5 p.m. Eastern Time for Poker Coaching Premium members. His chapter is on playing the middle stack at the final table, and he advocates a lot of limping. He basically outlines everything Dominique was doing to some extent, except for he does it too. And, I think playing strategies that may be viewed as not the perfect GTO strategy can certainly be fine, especially if your opponents respond very poorly because they haven't studied that spot at all. What's the best game to run it up to the middle stakes from the micros? I would tell you to don't worry about running it up. If you're trying to get rich quick, I would tell you to go play roulette. You can get really rich really quick playing roulette or blackjack or baccarat. Poker's a really slow game. So if you're trying to get rich quickly, you need to find something you can like double in like 1 minute. Whereas poker takes, like even if you're trying to gamble really hard, it still takes you a few days to get rich, right? So if you're trying to get rich as fast as possible and you don't care about having an edge at all, because notice you didn't say you care about having an edge, you should just, I would recommend probably baccarat. Baccarat has a low house edge. Well, you're still going to be losing on average, but get 5 doubles in a row. You just turned a dollar into whatever it is, a whole pile. $1, $2, $4, $8, $16, $32. You could 32x your bankroll if you just run ungodly hot. And it'll take you a whopping 6 minutes. That said, that's a really stupid strategy. Is there a difference between tournaments and sit-and-goes? Yes, very much. In multi-table tournaments, you're trying to get into the top 1% of the field. In sit-and-goes, you're trying to get into the top 30% of the field. I personally lit a lot of fire on money as a young poker player because I thought that sit-and-goes were the same as tournaments. I was a great sit-and-go player. I never played tournaments. And I just sat there and played really tight. And playing really tight is not so bad in sit-and-goes, but it's detrimental in tournaments. And I lost money for like a year. Not really fully understanding why, but I talked to people, learned, studied, etc. Let's see. Never bluff in low-stakes cash games, says George. What's my thoughts on this? If your opponents are calling stations. But like this implies something about the opponents. If your opponents are calling stations, then sure, never bluff. That said, in this book, I sat at Borgata and played 1-2 no-limit cash games for like 20 hours or 30 hours. I think I talked about it in the beginning of the book. Maybe I say it. I don't know. I don't know how long I played. But anyway, I sat there and I played for a long time, and there were plenty of people I bluffed out of their seats. Because whenever they checked, they were always weak on the river. If they're always weak on the river when they check, life is easy. Right? So, what do I think of that advice? I think that's horrible advice. I think any advice that says never bluff somebody without saying who that somebody is, or saying that somebody is everybody who plays a particular stake, that's awful advice. That's awful advice. All right. You have kings raised to 5 big blinds and get a raise and get 5 callers. Good. Nobody talks about buying a database for your heads-up display. Is that a common practice? It used to be. I think a lot of sites have banned this. In the past, you could do what was called data mine, where you would basically just load up all the tables and Hold'em Manager would track every hand that was played on all those tables. I don't think a lot of sites let you do that anymore, though. Pankaj says you're a big fan and also subscribed. Thank you. Hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're learning a ton. All right. Do I have any action on the election? I have no action on the election. I know people get funny when you start talking about elections, even betting on elections. Did you all know that you were not legally allowed to bet on elections until this year? How about that? At least within America. I would be kind of scared betting on Biden at this point, even though like everything points to the idea that Biden's probably going to win by a decent margin. Last election happened, right? And some people love Trump very much, and I'm not sure. I don't know if anybody like loves Biden very much, but some people love Trump very much, and I think there's a tiny chance that may skew things. That said, like if you made me bet on it right now, whatever the odds are, I'd probably just take Biden, but I'm not betting on anybody because I just don't know. I don't follow elections. I don't know that stuff all that much. I would recommend you probably take a look at what my friend Nate Silver does. I like Nate Silver a lot. He does lots of stuff on political stuff at 538.com. He was in one of my blogs recently, actually. One of the last blogs I made before COVID, actually. We were in Borgata, I think it was like November. It was a lot of fun. Went down there, gambled some, played some poker. He loves grinding out the no limit hold'em. All right, let's see. Any tips for adjusting when you're near the bubble? With a medium stack. With a medium stack, your goal is usually just to get in the money. How much attention should you pay to all-in adjusted equity versus your results? All-in adjusted equity is very important. Your results don't matter all that much. You really enjoyed the Saturday study streams. Yeah, check those out with God's Big Toe and Crazy Sixes. Any chance having Faraz as a guest? Have God's Big Toe and Crazy Sixes. Ask to have Faraz as a guest. Kyberia's rating with 15 viewers. Thank you. I appreciate it. Welcome. Hello. Sorry for being 10 minutes late seeing this. Hello. Thank you very much. Which book should you get if you're a cash game player? Check out Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em. Where is it? Here it is. Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em. This is the guide to getting good at range analysis, which you need to understand to succeed at poker. Learn how to play fundamentally sound, then learn to adjust whatever your opponent does wrong. This is the book for you. It's a big book. It's a hard book, but check it out. I randomly pulled out this. This is an amicus brief. What in the world is that? Well, you can see it's for the Supreme Court of the United States. The Christina versus the United States. This is the court case where they were trying to say that poker was a game of skill. And we were asked, I say we, this was me, Mike Sexton, Vanessa Selps, a few other people. We were asked to try to write a document that proves poker is a game of skill that is short and concise for the Supreme Court of the United States to read. I don't know if they read it. I think they basically said nothing's happening with this case. But this was cool. I do my best to try and help us in the poker world. We made a short, concise guide trying to explain that poker is a game of skill and not a game of luck. Fun relics in the bookshelf back here. Believe it or not, it's not actually a green screen. Any info on Bet Online? I don't know anything about Bet Online. I've tried playing on the various American sites, and none of them have especially great volume, and I don't really want to play on sites that don't have especially great volume because then it just becomes kind of a headache. And I don't really want to have a headache. I made a video on making deals, but you assume deals are fine if you're getting compensated more than your edge. Sure, yeah, if you're making a deal and, like, let's say you're supposed to get $1,000 for your equity, but they want to give you $1,200, then sure, you should probably take that. If you're getting a good deal, you should usually take it. If you're getting a break-even or a bad deal, you should not. Working on homework. What percentage ratio should you strive for? It depends. So if you're betting with a polarized strategy... I mean, look, actually, you know what, Taminator? I'm not going to go into this because this is actually all going to be discussed thoroughly in the Tournament Masterclass that's coming out in November. The ratios you have here are fine if you're betting polarized. These are, by the way, 33% premium made hands to 67% bluffs on the flop, 50-50 on the turn, 2 value hands to 1 bluff on the river. That's fine if you're polarized. If you're not polarized, you're going to end up with just way more value hands. And if you have way more value hands, you should start betting way more often because you have a big range and nut advantage. Marginal to junk. So there is no ratio you're striving for, value to bluff, marginal to junk. That doesn't exist. Marginal to junk, though, you usually want 70% marginal at the least compared to your junk, which is going to allow you to check call 70% of the time or more. I want to thank all of you for being here today. Hope you're having a great day. What big blind per 100 are you running at for online tournaments? Typically, I'm running about 6 EV big blind per 100 in high stakes tournaments. What sample would you need for that to be accurate? Ooh, I don't know. 250,000 hands? Nobody's here for the roulette strategy. Oh, I thought that's what you came here for. How do you identify bots when you're playing online? I don't know. What is the mushroom tea I drink? I like the Four Sigmatic stuff. I like all that stuff. I don't know if it's any good for you, but I like all of it. What's my opinion on late registering and just studying short stacked play? This is a great way to have a very small win rate. Anytime you are taking the skill, or a lot of the skill, out of a game, you are essentially resigning to the fact that you're not smart enough to beat the game when it requires an immense amount of skill. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with this. I used to play a very low skill game for a living. Sit and goes, right? Sit and goes are a very low skill game. Like satellites are a very low skill game. Limit Hold'em is a low skill game. 5-card draw, low skill game. There's nothing wrong with playing low skill games. I've made a ton of money playing low skill games. And you can certainly play tournaments by buying in very late, studying only shallow stacked play, forgetting deep stacked play, because why would you study something that's substantially more difficult? And I think that's actually not a bad route to go from being a losing player to a break-even player or a small winning player. That said, it's not going to make you a big winner unless you put in a ton of volume. Fortunately, though, you actually can put in a lot of volume in these tournaments if you're willing to blast it in. You're just going to need a huge bankroll, though, because your ROI is going to be like 10%, 20%, 30%. And there's going to be like infinite variance because you still have to outlast a lot of the field. It all goes back to, like, as a coach, what am I trying to teach you? Am I trying to teach you to just be, like, barely profitable? Like, no, I'm trying to teach all of you to be big winners. And that sometimes that is hard work. You got to study a little bit hard to be a big winner. Hate to break it to you. But certainly need to be good at shallow stack play. And my tournament course that's coming out soon, a lot of attention is devoted to 20 big blind play to 40 big blind play, that area, because that is where you are going to be playing most of the time. So I definitely like the idea of discussing and studying the shallow stack scenarios, because that's often where you are. But you can have huge edges early in a tournament, and if you just never show up for those, then you're going to be leaving money on the table. What's a reasonable win rate for a regular tournament player? Depends on how many people are there. Check out jonathanlowpoker.com/bankroll. Let's see. Is a HUD worth it for the micro stakes? Probably. Why did you skip the WSOP.com this year? Went there for a little bit. Let's see. Do you have any action on Doug versus Daniel? I made a video about this. I have a little bit of action on Negreanu. Check out the video, youtube.com/pokercoaching. It's one of the more recent videos I uploaded. Essentially, you're betting on how good Negreanu will get in a relatively short period of time. That said, he's been a good poker player for forever. We already know Polk's going to be very good. So the question is, how good will a probably not as good heads-up player be against a very good heads-up player? Because whenever I made my bet, I presumed Polk was going to be playing very, very good. Like, very, very good, very, very world-class level, okay? So the question is, where's Daniel going to be playing? I've seen Daniel get in shape for all sorts of bets or tasks. A good example of this is he was bad at no-limit cash games back in the day, and he wanted to play high stakes on PokerStars, and he sucked. And he started studying a ton. He hired coaches, and within a few months, he was basically break-even in the toughest online game in the world. So if you can get roughly break-even in one of the toughest online games in the world pretty quickly, then you got to think he's going to be competent enough at heads up to get good pretty quickly. And the thing is, I got 5-1 on my bet, right? So if you're getting 5-1, and I mean, we went through lots of analysis showing variance and whatnot. I think he's probably going to lose 2/3 of the time, something like that. So 1 in 3 I'm going to win, but I'm getting paid 5-1, so we'll be in pretty good shape. Obviously, we're going to lose more often than not, but that's fine if you're getting good odds, right? Where do you look for data? How do you study something that wasn't covered by coaching sites or anyone? Well, listen, Jake, if you're a poker coaching member, send me an email, tell me what you want to study, and I'll look into it for you. But how do you study it? You go and you look for the information. Try to find it. But that's a nice perk of pokercoaching.com. send me an email and I'll make a video on it. I'm telling you, I have literally hundreds of classes, 20 to 30 minute long videos on specific topics to make sure that you fully understand what you're doing. Get a satellite into a tournament, 30 times normal buy-in. Do you have any tips to at least get in the money? Well, listen, if it's 30... I'm confused about this satellite. Do I have satellite strategy? Basically, try to get a hold of some chips and then play kind of tight from there. But I mean, that's super basic strategy. Check out Excelling at No Limit Hold'em. There's a great chapter on satellites by Bernard Lee. They'll give you a lot of good, actionable advice for satellites. What's the best downturn I experienced playing cash? I've been pretty lucky in cash games. I think I've only lost like 20 buy-ins live back when I was playing a lot. But I was playing a lot, right? So I was playing 70 or 80 hours a week. And I think I won like literally every month I played 5, 10, and 10, 20 at Bellagio. Online, I haven't really put in any like gigantic long cash game grinds online, so I'm not the best person to ask for that. Who will win the game, Polk or Negroni? Well, I mean, Polk's clearly the favorite, right? Let's see. You just won over $4,000 in 700 tournaments. Nice. Now you're getting unlucky. Well, variance happens. You're calling and all in on the flop with a nut flush draw 100% of the time. Depends on how deep you are, right? But usually you're not trying to fold these hands. That said, if you're like raising the flop with a nut flush draw, you may be screwing up. If someone bets and you raise with a nut flush draw, you clearly can't fold because you beat all the worst draws, right? But quite often you should not raise the flop with a nut flush draw. A lot of people think that you're supposed to be blasting it in with draws, but that's not true. Quite often the draws play very well as calls on the flop, calls on the turn, because you don't want to get blown off of him facing all in. What are ideal VPIP preflop raise 3-bet numbers in a full ring game? I honestly don't know. I haven't played full ring cash games in a long time. But I mean, you should be pretty tight from the early positions, pretty loose from late positions. And again, like what is ideal doesn't necessarily matter because it depends a lot on your opponent's strategy. Is there any value in playing a $50,000 buy-in tournament? Some. Game selection is very important. I've not played a ton of high buy-in tournaments. I mean, I've played a $180,000 buy-in tournament once. They added $180,000 to the prize pool. There were probably 40% of the players were recreational. That was very good value. I'd play that all day if I could. Probably go broke, but I'd play it all day if I could. I actually bubbled it. I had aces against fives. That was a lot of fun. I played a $50,000 tournament, a $40,000 tournament at the World Series of Poker. That was very soft. Probably 20% recreational players. So whenever you're playing higher stakes games, you want to be looking for the game to be overly soft. And sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But usually the World Series of Poker tournaments are generally soft across the board. I mean, I played some 25Ks, right? I don't know, maybe 10. Haven't had great luck in those. I mean, I think I've cashed 3 or 4 of them, but no good wins. That said, I've had good shots in them. Like there's always one at Hard Rock in Fort Lauderdale in Hollywood, Florida. And that's always a very good one. I had one time where I remember I was against Justin Bonomo and we were near the bubble. I had the chip lead. He was second in chips. And we somehow got it all in. I had ace-king against his 10s. And he won. And that was for like 6x average or something. And so if like you win the hand, you win all the chips. And if I lost the hand, I'd still have one starting stat or one average buy-in, and I could just easily sneak into the money, which is what happened, right? But like you win that hand, you end up winning the tournament, and your results are completely skewed. But anyway, I try to play when I think I'm going to have a decent edge. I try to not have ego problems where I just have to play the biggest games or anything like that. When should you add on? You should probably add on. I don't really know what this question is asking, Troll. Kind of confused by it. Is it correct to 3-bet king, queen offsuit, and ace-jack offsuit against an early position opener? What is early position? Early position 6-handed? Sure. Early position 9-handed? You can go either way. You let 9-8 suited and ace-5 suited from early position and see if you get the right price. I would just raise. Just raise. You're calling the flop all ends with an... You already asked me this. You've been playing for about 12 months... 20K in live cashes, you struggle adjusting playing online. Do you have any tips? Understand they're slightly different games. Understand that you may be playing poker for different reasons than only to win money. Maybe you don't enjoy playing online. Maybe you aren't a good online player. Maybe you play a strategy that results in you relying a lot on live reads. I'm not sure exactly what your issues are because we just have one paragraph here. But figure out what the issues are. Probably you're not all that fundamentally sound. Hate to break it to you, but that's usually what happens. People who are good at live poker lack fundamentals. They go to play online and they just get crushed. On sites like Ignition, it's all anonymous. You should definitely get a heads-up display if you're playing on any site. And I know I know you can get a heads-up display on Ignition. You have to get some Bovada card counter or something like that. All right. What's the best daily steady routine for a micro stakes cash game grinder? Sign up for pokercoaching.com premium. Go through the 30-day, I think it's 30-day, maybe 14-day. Go through the cash game challenge and also go through the cash game masterclass. There's an image of it right here. That will get you up to speed quickly. All right, I have to get going. Is it okay to move up in cash games slowly and keeping 200 buy-ins? Sure. You don't have to go quick. Poker's a great get-rich-slow game. Kevin, I'll consider it. Hope you all have a great day. It's the middle of the week. The middle of the week's always tough because we're in the thick of things, right? But all we can do is continue showing up, doing great work, and doing our best. When are big field tournaments coming back? I don't know. I actually was talking to Rimco about this. Yesterday I did a show with Rimco called Run It Back, where he went through 2 World Series of Poker final tables. One was particularly good. It was a $5,000 buy-in, single-handed final table featuring a few great players. So I enjoyed that a lot, and we discussed this, and I really don't see it coming back soon. I mean, look, I'm not a virologist or an event planner, so I don't know for sure. But I do know a lot of games similar to poker have canceled until 2020. And I'm sorry, 2022. And if a lot of games are canceling until 2022, like games where a bunch of people get together and sit in a big room, it's probably going to be the case for poker too. That said, poker players are gamblers. They're willing to get sick. Some of them are. So maybe they won't care, but I guess we'll see. Even if they come back, though, I was talking to Rimco about this. I don't even know if the World Series happened next year, if I would even go. Because, you're going to get sick, most likely, assuming, there's no vaccine, et cetera, et cetera. Seems risky. Seems unnecessary, right? Some things are necessary, some things are unnecessary. And it is my job as a father to 2 kids, 2 babies, and, husband to my wife, to not go off, play poker, get sick, and come back. It's kind of my responsibility, right? So if I think I'm decently live to go back and get sick, then it's probably not optimal, right? Would you ever lend a student money? No, but I've given students plenty of money. We give away lots of money at pokercoaching.com. We have a pretty nice giveaway coming up very, very soon, actually. I think we're giving away $1,000. For poker coaching members, we were backing them pre-COVID. We're actually going to get back to that. When I say backing, basically just giving them money to go play a tournament, and if they win, they give me half the money back. It was actually going well. We were pretty profitable on that, so that was good. So that was fun. But am I going to give a loan? No, I don't need to give a loan. I would instead just give the money away, right? Happy to give money to people who are working hard, studying, and working to improve their skills. There's a lot of value in supporting people who are actively trying to improve themselves. We have to go now. Hope you all have a great day. My son Thomas has an introduction to school. Thomas is 1.5 years old, almost 2. So he's going to go to school now because apparently that's what you do with children. Hope you all have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. Make the most of this Wednesday. Check out pokercoaching.com. Click like. Click subscribe. Click. Check it out. Also, I've been adding a bunch of new videos to YouTube. Go there. Check those out too. youtube.com/pokercoaching. I'd appreciate it. Have a good day. Good luck. And I'll see you again bright and early Friday for another episode of A Little Coffee.